Hello there.
Hello there. Welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. The Star Wars animation to live action transition bracket continues this week. We finished the George Lucas region last week because we were entering the Dave Filoni region. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Phillips. Joining today, as always, Pete Consadori is here. Pete, how are you?
Second part of the bracket. I'm doing great. I'm excited. Glad to see you guys again and talk Star Wars with you again. So I'm looking forward to seeing what our thoughts are on this second piece here.
Yep. Also here, all with us here today, our Mandalorian leader, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing great. Ready to get this. What section of the bracket are we doing now? Bottom left or top right?
We are in bottom left.
Right, so we get the bottom left of this bracket done. Very excited, and then we'll get one step closer to the final four, and we'll see who's cutting the nets down.
Yep, absolutely here. And Pete, people want to subscribe to the Sky Guys podcast. They do so on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. Simply search for the Sky Guys' favorite podcast platforms. Final episodes there. If you somehow find this from the Just and the Suffering podcast and you're not listening to it, you're not getting these episodes in that feed. You're missing all the bracket fun.
You're missing a ton of bracket fun. You're missing some hot takes, I'm sure, from me at some point where you can get angry at me about it and let me know how much of an idiot I am. So why miss out on that kind of action, right? Subscribe.
Yep. And Nick, people want to follow us on social media. How can they do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, Twitter X, Threads, and TikTok.
Yep. You can also follow me on. I can also follow the YouTube channel, Mike Phillips, on YouTube. Video version of the podcast up there. We have our props as always here. So again, symbol of the bracket, Lego Ahsoka is here. She is on the board, and Peach brought his out last week. Nick, we're still waiting to get you one.
No, none for me. Got nowhere to put them.
It doesn't take up that much space.
Same. Listen, the beauty about Lego is you never know where to put them, but you still buy them and build them.
Yes. Or have them sitting in boxes waiting to build them until you figure out what to put them.
Exactly.
All right. So
I still never built that Vader helmet. I've had it for 3 years.
Yeah, well, you could maybe in the off season when you have some time or the holidays.
Maybe.
All right, so let's get some Star Wars news, Nick. We got a couple things to cover this week.
Yeah, so the first thing is, and I got to make this clear because I know the full story behind it because I read it from another point of view. So,
from a certain point of view.
Yeah, right. I'm going to be calling it Ubisoft. We'll call it Ubisoft. I don't care. I'll be calling it Ubisoft. Ubisoft has a game coming out, Star Wars Outlaws, and people think it's going to be delayed. And it's not the case. No one said it was going to be delayed. What happened was they have a game called Skull and Bones. And Skull and Bones is a game that was originally announced in 2013, I believe, maybe 2014, not sure, one of the two. It is a pirate action-adventure type game, and this game is in development hell. It has been delayed countless times. It was originally supposed to be released in the summer of 2018. It is the fall of 2023. It has not come out. So it's been 5.5 years. The game has not come out yet. It keeps getting pushed. And a couple of days ago, it was pushed again. And in the article where it said it was pushed, it also said, a big game, a big AAA title has also been delayed. People have then said, oh, it's the Star Wars game. But that's not necessarily true. We do not know if it's the Star Wars game yet. Very well might be, but we do not know that. And the internet has kind of just said it has to be. So we don't know that, but we do know is that pirate game, Skull and Bones, is delayed again.
Yeah, talk about development hell. This is like 10 years now, that game.
Yep. And then now they're saying it will. What they did was they were saying that it now will come out in the Q2, I believe, of 2024.
Okay, we'll see if that happens here. And that for Outlaws or for that pirate game?
What? Q2?
Yeah.
The pirate game. Outlaws, I don't think we have a date.
Also, Pete, we talked about this offline here. You want to go into the two scenarios you can see happening with this game if it is actually delayed?
I mean, as a consumer and as a fan of video games, my personal opinion about Ubisoft is either it doesn't come out and it gets pushed for like a long time, like Skull and Bones has, or they rush to release in a holiday season and it's broken to all hell. Unfortunately, and I'm sure a lot of gamers, not so much as of late, I feel like game companies have gotten a bit better, but I feel like recently or up till this point, game companies have just put out garbage because they know people are going to buy it. And, gamers got wise to it and they said, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to do our homework before we purchase the game. But I feel like Ubisoft was still on that track for a while. that necessarily may not be true. So I don't say like I say that Ubisoft sucks. I like a lot of Ubisoft titles. Big Assassin's Creed guy. And they usually don't come out broken or anything like that. So it just, to me, it's either rushed out the door because they want to get it out for a holiday season at some point, or they postpone it if it's actually postponed. Like Nick said, this was talking about Skull and Bones, which has been a nightmare since 2017, whenever they announced it or whatever it was. And honestly, I don't think that game's coming out even in 2025. I think that might just be chalked at this point if they're having this many problems with it.
Yeah, if we go through door number 1, though, that's a big KOTOR 2 situation here, and I would not want that for fans of this game.
Yeah, I think it's just a bad look when any game company just pushes something out the door and they haven't worked out the kinks. I mean, Cyberpunk was one of those bigger releases as of late, or recently, I should say, that had that problem.
Yeah, and KOTOR 2, for those who are not familiar, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the story of this game. They basically caught an entire planet worth of storyline on an RPG to make sure it got out by Christmas, and it was very broken. But your storylines you just not get. You sort of skipped right to the end. Your stuff like, wait, what?
Yeah, that's what we were mentioning on the cast 2 weeks ago on the Selection Sunday show.
Yep. Okay, what else we got in the news department, Nick?
Mark Hamill is filming a new movie called The Life of Chuck, which is based on a Stephen King story.
Yep.
Anything you want to add about Mark Hamill?
Yeah, Mark Hamill, like he's a collaboration with Mike Flanagan, the horror director who has built the Netflix universe of all these shows, a bunch of interrelated characters. Like he was on the last show he did, The Fall of the House of Usher, which I highly recommend to anybody who likes Mark Hamill's work. It's one of his best acting roles, and we covered that on the Justin the Suffering podcast 2 weeks ago down in Austin. And I posted a clip on the social media about that, and we got an acknowledgement from the great Mark Hamill himself.
That's great.
Huge. Yeah. It's absolutely huge.
So Mark Hamill knows I exist. Maybe by extension, he knows you two exist.
Maybe he subscribed to the Sky Guys. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. He might be.
Yeah. Friend of the podcast, Martina Puccio, invited him to come on with us. Said you should hang out with Mike on the Star Wars podcast. So he put the word out there. So if Mark Hamill, if you are listening to this, you are welcome to come on and talk to us anytime you want.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. Is that it for the Star Wars news?
That's it.
All right. So let's get to our bracket here for today. We're going to start off going through the second round here. Let me pull up the bracket here, the Dave Filoni region, which is what we're going to be playing through right now in terms of the next 4 opponents that are going to be fighting for a spot in the final 4. We have a lot of Dave Filoni inspired characters here. I think Dave Filoni created all 4 of these characters here. And Ahsoka Tano, our number 1 seed in this region, against the Grand Inquisitor, number 4. Our 2-3 matchup is Bo-Katan and Zeb. So our Rebels represent 2 Rebels representatives, 2 Clone Wars representatives.
Nice even split.
Yeah, and they're all in Rebels.
They are all in Rebels, but our top 2 seeds originating in Clone Wars. So
that's right. So
right.
let's do it. Let's start. Which one do we start with? The 1-4? We'll
start with the 1-4. I'll refresh what people's expectations are here. So reset. What we grudge is on every week here is the look of the character transitioning from animation to live action, the portrayal by the actor, and the character development. Those are the 3 things we're sort of grading. I'm going to go through each character one at a time here. We'll break this out here. So we'll start out with our top seed in this region here, Ahsoka Tano, who is the iconic Star Wars character in terms of breaking out from animation to live action, the inspiration for this bracket. She is the 4th overall seed in the bracket itself. And I'm going to put the look on the screen here for animation to live action here. So Nick, start us out here. Ahsoka's portrayal, what do you think?
The look is
sorry.
Yeah, I know what you meant. Sorry, the look is near perfect, right? I mean, it's kind of hard to not be perfect. I feel like you can put any female just in the makeup and put that wig on her head and it would look good. So it's hard to not be good, but Rosario Dawson looks very much like the character. And you got to remember, this is so many years since we've seen Ahsoka. So, I mean, I guess technically the epilogue of Rebels is only about 10 years or 5 years, 6 years or so before this. But very, very, very well done. And just, yeah, A for me.
Pete, what do you feel about this?
Yeah, I agree. I think they really did very well. I think I heard some stuff when Ahsoka was first premiered in Mando season 2 that was called mandrels, the wig, whatever the body part is, the hair, I guess, of Ahsoka. They were too short. the actress has to wear, I'm sure that thing weighs like 50 pounds, whatever. I mean, that's probably egregious, but it probably weighs a ton as it is now. If you put a longer headpiece on her, she's not gonna be able to act. So I feel like that's the only, I don't want to say hate, but that's the only criticisms I've seen over the internet about the appearances from from animation to live action, but I think they did great.
I mean, just look at the detail level though. Like in terms of like the makeup Rosario Dawson has to wear for this. They got the coloring right. They got the white like facial marks correct. Like everything there looks great. And I guess the tendrils are a little short, but again, it's to Pete's point. This might be just a practical acting thing. Whereas like, would you rather have somebody CGI this or would you have a person doing it? I'd rather have the person.
Yeah, 100%. And my apologies, I didn't realize there were tendrils. I called them something else. So thank you for correcting me on that.
All right, so that's the look here. So let's go to portrayal here. So this is one where we've been having sort of a mixed bag on Ahsoka here. I know, Pete, how you feel about how Rosario Dawson portrays the character in live action?
I think the casting was phenomenal. We'll probably talk about it when it comes to character development, but I feel like this is what Ahsoka is at this age. I think people were looking for a snippy, witty, like teenager when that's not the case at all, especially in the live action timeline of Ahsoka. So I think it was great. I mean, I wouldn't change a thing about it, honestly. The only thing I will say, let me just add to it, and I'm sorry, is the choreography of the lightsaber duels that she had could have been better, but I don't put that on the actress. I put that on the choreographer, whoever designed those scenes.
Okay, so Nick, what do you think?
I don't really have anything to add. It's exactly how I feel. I think the portrayal was great. I think the action sequences were subpar, but I don't know if that's her fault or the choreographer's fault. I guess I'm leaning towards the choreographer's fault, and not really any fault of hers.
Yeah, I in terms of people who are saying, oh, like this is not like somebody like who's done the character, right? I mean, Rosario Dawson for years was like campaigned to be Ahsoka, and like she really wanted this role, and they gave it to her. She's puts her heart and soul into it, and I think like people sort of like expecting the witty, like goofy Ahsoka we get at points in Clone Wars don't realize that this character has gone through in her life at this point in terms of like everything that's happened to her. The show really does a good job of Ahsoka sort of like diving into some of the trauma she's had to live with and overcome, and I think that she did a good job embodying all that and like seeing her change throughout her own show. I think also was a good sign of how good Rosario Dawson is in this role.
I'm with you.
All right, so last category here, which is character development here, and I do not think there may be a more properly developed character in Star Wars history than this one, Nick.
Yeah, but we're talking about the live action development, right?
Yeah, because I mean, like we're sort of like seeing, like I was just saying as a generality. Now we can talk about how she's developed, going from animation to live action.
I guess she's just matured even more. Like we saw her maturing over the years in animation. It's just more and more now, right?
Yeah, I mean, like
Look at it.
we get adult Ahsoka here. She's been through a lot. She's had to process Anakin's fall, her potential role in it. I think her portrayal and her experience going through the world between worlds in Ahsoka season 1, I think made a big difference for that portrait, for that development, Pete.
I agree. I mean, I would be as bold as to say I don't think there is a live action Star Wars character other than Anakin that has had more character development than her, and she only did it in 9 episodes because we're going to count the episode from Mandalorian.
I guess 10 with Boba.
10 with Boba, right? So I would be as bold as to say that. I think the most live action development since Anakin.
Yeah, so anything else you want to add to Ahsoka, or should we move on to her opponent?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so now we go to the number 4 seed here, the Grand Inquisitor, who, like the fifth brother last week, is one of a few characters, I think one of maybe 2 or 3 characters total, whose live action appearance predates their animated stuff in canon, but comes after in terms of chronology here. So we'll start with the most controversial one here, which I think is, we had to spend a few minutes on this one here. The look aspect here, and I have a screenshot ready to go on this one. So this, to me, I think is the biggest problem with the Grand Inquisitor here, is that this portrayal by the actor looks nothing like what he should be, in my opinion, Nick.
I agree. I think it's the worst design change that we've had.
Yeah, so Pete, you want to get specifics here, what you see is wrong with this?
I mean, the eyes and the head shape, I think, is the huge thing. Again, we're going with that thinner face like we've seen in animated Star Wars before. But I mean, if Ahsoka can wear a prosthetic piece on her head, I can't see why this actor couldn't. Maybe they were trying to go more the human look, which would make no sense to me because the Grand Inquisitor is not human. It's egregious for sure. I don't think it didn't take me away from the character as much as maybe it should have. I think I kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt, but it is pretty bad. They could have easily just made a taller headpiece that the actor could have worn. I don't see why they couldn't have.
And Nick, when we did the selection show a few weeks ago, our friend Max Rowers pointed out here, like, this is not the first time they've done Uta Pounds live action. They did them in episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, and they look much more like the animated version, what we got with Rupert Friend's version.
Yeah, I mean, this is as bad as it gets in this sense. It looks nothing like it. It's awful. So, 1 out of 10.
Yeah, definitely a 1 out of 10 here. And let's go to live action portrayal next year, which is Rupert Friend's portrayal of him here. And the challenge of this one, Pete, is very much the fact that, like, Obi-Wan sidelined him for first the entire season to give Reva room to play. I mean, he's in the premiere. He gets stabbed, and he shows up again in the end.
Yeah, I don't know if I have enough information to give you an educated answer on this with this character. And there's going to be a couple of those characters throughout the bracket as we talk, and even this same bracket, we're going to probably have this discussion again. I feel like there's just not enough information. I think the actor does a good job. I mean, for what it is. I don't think the actor particularly did a bad job, and I don't think the actor did an incredible job. I think it was okay. That's the Grand Inquisitor. It seems right, and I think it was just kind of like a very like I'm very in the middle for it.
Yeah, for me, Nick, this aggravates me more than anything with what they did with him, because as somebody who watched Homeland and was a big fan of Rupert Friend, when I saw the casting and saw what he was playing, I was like, this would be fantastic. Like, he's got the depth to do a lot of dimension of this character. We know how complicated the Grand Inquisitor is in the animated form, and like, they gave him nothing to do. He was basically there just be menacing overlord bad guy, and then get sidelined because he's too powerful to get in the way of what Reva's trying to do.
I don't think he's even menacing at all in the show, and I don't know if that's because of the look. That could be it. That it's just so distracting that it takes it away. But I think it's portrayed horribly as well, and I don't think it's. I don't know if it's the actor's fault, if it's the writing and directing's fault, but I don't even think it's the same character when I'm watching it. I have to be reminded that it's the same character.
Yeah, I think it's more to the writing, because I think, like we did in Rebels itself in season 4, we sent Thrawn away because he was too powerful for our characters to win. I think we sent the Grand Inquisitor away because we need Reva actually have room to operate. She would not have that with the Grand Inquisitor in his prime. Keep an eye on her.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that is what they say.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree. Just very, very, very poor job with this one.
Yeah. I'll go to the character development front, which is obviously complicated here because we get a lot more of him canonically after his live action appearance, because he shows up in season 1 of Rebels as the main bad guy until he dies. So, Nick, in terms of his character development, like, did you see anything here that really makes sense for what he carries over into Rebels?
Not really. I don't see anything at all, actually. I see a really poorly written character in this show who looks terrible. But I see your point, though. It makes perfect sense. You had to get him out of there. That makes sense. That is true. So you can't really blame anyone for that. He wasn't supposed to be the main villain, so it's okay that he sucked.
Yeah, and Pete, that's my problem here, because like, they had a character who was a lot of fun. We were very excited to see, and they did nothing with him. Like, why even have him in the show? We're just going to take him out of the mix like right away.
They were trying to do the Darth Vader effect, and it failed. It flopped, right? You can have Darth Vader in a room for 7 seconds, go, oh crap, it's Darth Vader. Some stuff's going to go down. They tried it. It failed. You can only do it with Darth Vader, right? If you had the Grand Inquisitor show up at the end of a movie for 10 seconds, like in Rogue One with Darth Vader, it does not land like it does if it's Darth Vader. So they tried it. They went with it. And I don't think it ever works unless it's that, like I said, unless it's Vader. So yeah, that's my thinking on it.
All right, so I think we're ready to do a vote here, and I'll start this one out here. I think I'm gonna speak for everyone here. I think this is gonna be this might be the biggest sweep of Ahsoka here. When we get to the people's bracket in a few weeks, I would not be shocked if this is like 99-1 in the vote.
Yeah. You speak for everyone. I have no problem with you speaking for everyone. Everyone agrees.
Yep.
Yeah. So, Nick, as the sports book of this podcast here, what is the over/under percentage of the popular vote for Ahsoka overthrown?
91.5.
So you think she's got to be in the 90s?
Yeah, because I think people are just going to vote the other way just because they think it's funny and stuff like that,
All right, so Ahsoka clean sweep again here. Now we go to the other half of this bracket here, which is Bo-Katan against Zeb. So this is going to be, I think, another one where I think the discussion is going to be fun, but the result's not going to be. But I think we have to start out with the Bo-Katan side. We'll start with the character appearance. I'm going to share the screen here. So Nick's obviously we have same voice actress playing the character here. So how do you think they did with the Bo-Katan live action look?
I think it's the best one. I think it's the best they've ever done. I think it's fantastic. I think she looks exactly how I picture. The only difference would be her hair is a little darker, but she's gotten older. I think it's acceptable. So I think it is the perfect portrayal.
Yeah, P, I think in terms of the look, I think it's obvious that they modeled the character after Katie Sackhoff when they did the animated version. And now getting her to play the live action version was a coup. Because not only you get the voice, but you get the look correct as well. And like this looks like it would be what Bo-Katan would look like if she aged 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Bo-Katan of season 2 is a little bit more better when it comes to looks than the Bo-Katan of season 3 than the Bo-Katan of season 2 when it comes to Mandalorian. But I agree with Nick. I think this is probably the one of the best. I think, as a little spoiler, I think the person she's going up against is the best. But they had a lot of help with that, right? Yeah. But I think season 3 of Mando is a little bit better than season 2 when it comes to looks.
All right, so that's the look department here. Now let's go to the portrayal, which obviously this is our second character we've done in the brackets of who has the same, it's your third character, the same live action portrayal as the voice actor, with although kind of a half with Cad Bane. We have Katie Sackhoff back in here, and Pete. Obviously, we got a lot of Katie Sackhoff in season 3 of Mandalorian here. Like, how do you think she does portraying the older Bo-Katan?
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it was great. I have a gripe with the choreography too and what happens, but I think it's a lot better in Mando and Katie Sackhoff than what they did with Ahsoka. But I have no complaints.
Yeah, I feel like I love the portrayal of this character. I feel like the decision to make her the co-lead of season 3 of Mando, I think helped the story out a lot. Like, I do think that obviously I would have liked to see more Pedro Pascal, but I think given the reality he was off doing Last of Us and they had very limited use of him, I get the idea behind making her like the co-lead of the show, and I think it worked. And I think she's done a good job showing like what this character has been through in her life, Nick.
I mean, it's just perfectly done, and it makes sense because it's the same actress, right?
Yeah.
So I really don't have anything to add.
All right, let's go to the last one here. Character development from animation to live action here. Nick, you want to start us off on this one?
Yeah, another thing that I think is nearly perfect. It's the same character. I believe it's the same character. I know right away it's the same character, and she has the same morals, same goals. I think it's perfect. A plus.
Pete, anything to add?
No. Sorry to be boring there, but no.
Yeah, I think the thing I like here is that like sort of like what we said with Saw Gerrera last week is that like the experiences that this character has gone through on the show have really impacted this character like as a whole. And I think their portrayal is very well. Like you see like that she has gone through the fall of Mandalore, she's lost her people, and like the way that Katie Sackhoff acts it does feel like a natural progression of what that character has gone through in her life.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All right, so let's take a look now. We'll go to the other side of the bracket here with Zeb Orrelios, who is our character from Rebels, our first Rebels main character to show up in the bracket here. He comes up from animation to live action here. He shows up in surprising fashion in The Mandalorian, which that was, Nick, let's say, how shocked were we when we saw Zeb the first time?
We were very shocked, and I guess the reason why we now know is that he wasn't going to be in Ahsoka, so they just wanted people to say, instead of saying, where's Zeb, say, well, here he is. He was in this show. So it gave them an excuse to not put him in the show. But
let's get to the look.
It was definitely shocked. Yeah.
Yeah, all right, so let's get to the look here. So I'm going to put it up here. And Pete, I know you are a big fan of the Zeb live action look, so go ahead.
I mean, I think because of the CGI, how can you mess it up, right? Maybe the shade, the color, whatever, but like this is probably the best transition to live action because of the simple fact that it's CGI. There's no human trying to play it. Now, granted, I don't know how they did it. There might be a human that's a stand-in, they have makeup, and then they do the CGI face or something. I don't know how that all works. I'm not going to begin to understand it, but I feel like this is the best one because it's the easy with all the help you can get, like we had mentioned. So spot on.
Yeah, and Nick, we've seen it some like Marvel shows had issues with CGI in the past. Like this one, I think took a long time for them to do. This might have been a test run for like, can we make this look right before using other things? I think they nailed it.
Agreed. I mean, like Pete said, it's impossible to mess it up, but it looks perfect. And this might be as Pete said, this might be the best one in terms of looks.
All right. So now we'll go to a live action portrayal here. Obviously, we have a CGI version of Zeb. We have the same voice actor, Steve Bloom, who voiced him in Rebels. So in terms of the portrayal, Nick, how do you think they did with the limited amount we got of him?
It's too little. It's similar to Jason, but the opposite. We have a lot of Zeb in the past. We have no Zeb now. We had no Jason then. We have Jason now. That's how I feel about this. It's just we don't have anything to go off of. I really can't give you an answer.
Yeah, and Pete, anything you want to add on this department?
I personally think, and I didn't say this in the bracket selection show, but I think if we didn't have a character cap, I think this should have been a play-in with Jason. I mean, the same thing with Nick. It's just like, well, what do we got? There's not like for the next two categories. For this category, and the next category, my answer is what do we really have to even talk about, right? So,
yeah, I actually think this first Jason would be an incredible play-in because it's opposite sides of the same story.
Yeah, well, we did not seed the field, so that was the film match,
right.
And they put him as the number 12 overall seed in the bracket. And we covered some of the lower ones before. I mean, the Grand Inquisitor was lower than him for a reason.
Right.
Yeah, I think in terms of the portrayal here, I think just having Steve Bloom do the voice, I think makes a big difference for me because like he's very iconic as the Zeb voice, and like if he walked up and was like somebody else, it would not have felt right.
Yeah,
I agree.
All right, now character development front here, which obviously we don't have much. We thought we would get him in Ahsoka, we did not. So we really have in terms of what he's been up to as a character piece, really that he found out he's flying from the Republic. We learned from in Ahsoka off screen, he's training pilots, and we see he's friends with Carson Teva, and he's like giving advice and sort of like saying, here's my experience. Here's how I'd help you. So that's really all we got in terms of Zeb.
Yeah. I mean, all that comes out that is a theory for me. How they're going to incorporate him into Star Wars. We could talk about that at a different time.
If you want to bring it up now, real quick,
if he's training pilots, the first thing I can think of is he trains Poe.
Yeah,
that's like the very first thing I can think of, especially because we're in between the original series and the sequels. So I feel like that's where we're going to get him. If like Poe gets his own show, or if there's something that they can introduce Poe into the shows and stuff, I feel like that's what's coming up. Or maybe in Ahsoka season 2 if that comes up. But yeah.
Yeah, Nick, I think the thing with him, I think, like I said before, I feel like the challenge with Zeb was sort of like they wanted to just test the water, make sure it looked correct before they committed to putting a big budget version of him into like other shows. So I think this is sort of like, here's our 30-second look. If we don't nail, we can go back and try this again in a few weeks.
Yeah, I also think what I said earlier is also the case. They knew he wasn't going to be in Ahsoka. Throw him in here. People don't ask where he is.
Yeah. And it also ties back to the line that Filoni has, always training pilots. You see, he's a pilot. That makes sense.
Right. That's true.
All right. So, Nick, start off the voting for this round here. I'm assuming, I think I know where you're going with this one.
Clean sweep.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're not even going to say who. You can say who.
Yeah. If you have not figured this out from our discussion here, Bo-Katan clean sweeps. This is another clean sweep from us here. So, the bracket people, I think they did a pretty good job with this. Though we did have one upset in the last week.
Yeah, so far all of our votes have been clean sweeps, right?
Yeah, this is pretty the 413 512 bracket. So the 4 and the 5 advance here. And this I think is the best debate so far. So we're going to go ahead now to the bracket here. The final of the Dave Filoni region. The winner of this gets on to take on Thrawn in the final four here. Ahsoka versus Bo-Katan. Where we stand here. So, Pete, start the vote here. Where you want to go?
This one's tough. And I think this is where, for me, an upset takes place. I think Ahsoka is a great character. And I think that there was a lot of great things with Ahsoka. But Bo-Katan has just a shit ton too when it comes. I mean, like when you look at Ahsoka and Bo-Katan, like their paths are pretty similar, right? There's a bunch in Clone Wars, and then they come up for like a season or two in live action. I feel like, damn, I don't know. I'm seriously 50-50 on this. And I was kind of, as I was thinking, I was kind of leaning Bo-Katan, but I'm like, yeah, but Ahsoka's gotten me all excited. And when it comes to character development in a live action and looks and everything like that, I'm giving it to Bo-Katan. I think that when we go from just those criteria, which was we're supposed to be doing, I think Bo-Katan has the edge on Ahsoka, and that's why I'm giving the upset there.
Nick. All right. So,
can you hear me? Audio issues.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, so I can go here. So listen, Bo-Katan's cutting the nets down. She's going to the final four. I'm with Pete. I think it goes to the point I mentioned earlier, which is why I gave one of the reasons I gave the nod to Thrawn over Saw. People are asking me about this character. And people are asking me about Ahsoka as well, but it makes sense to people asking about Ahsoka. It's the name of the show, like it's the main character. If you don't know who she is, you don't understand the show. But Bo-Katan, on the other hand, you don't need to know who that is to understand these shows. Yet I'm still being asked more about her and getting people to explain who's Bo-Katan. Excuse me, who's Bo-Katan? How do I get to know more about her? So I'm going with Bo-Katan.
Yeah, I'm going to dissent. I'll put Ahsoka in here, but it's very, 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 very close. It's like a narrow edge. I think the last little bit of character growth we got in Ahsoka is what gave me the edge there. So it's going to be a 2-1 vote in favor of Bo-Katan, but as we have completed the second region, Bo-Katan is in the final four against Thrawn. So that's going to be a fun matchup in 2 weeks.
I'm excited for it.
All right. So that's it for this bracket here. Next week, we're going to continue the show. We're going to go up to the top right. We're going to the D. Bradley Baker region. So in honor of our famous clone actor voice. So next week, we have Harrison Dula taking on Rex, and then Ezra Bridger against General Grievous, which is going to be a wild matchup there.
That one's weird because we need to really look. We need to do some Grievous research because you can't just look at.
Yeah, we're going to have to do a little 03 Clone Wars homework.
Yeah. Can't just look at Grievous from other things. You got to look at him from there.
Yeah, so Pete, how you feeling about this match? Are you excited to do this next week?
I am. I think we run into the same issue with that first piece when it comes to screen time and everything. But the second piece of the bracket, I think, is going to be the biggest discussion of that, at least first round of that D. Bradley Baker region.
Yeah, for sure here. And Grievous is one of our two unique characters here in that he does not come from canon Star Wars media, but was animated first. So,
yes. We'll see how that plays out.
Yep, let's absolutely see how it plays out. You want to thank you guys for coming on here. Really appreciate it. Pete, people want to follow you on social media, how can they do that?
At Consy29, CONSY29, and the person that made this background, AP Tyler 308 on Reddit. So go check them out.
Yep. Nick, one more time. People want to follow us on social media, how can they do that?
At Sky Guy Podcast. Oh, sorry. At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter X, Threads, and TikTok.
You can also follow me on social media, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. This week over on the Just on the Suffering podcast, do our NFL midseason report because we are now halfway through the NFL season here. And that's good. That was a lot of fun. Definitely want to check that out as well. Until then, we'll be back next week for the D. Bradley Baker region as bracket month continues. But until then, may the force be with you.